The pituitary gland is approximately the size of a pea and is suspended from the brain base by a short stalk. It consists of two lobes, the anterior lobe and the posterior lobe. The anterior lobe has a circulatory connection to the hypothalamus, and the posterior lobe has a neural connection to the hypothalamus. You may recall from Chapter 8 where we talked about the hypothalamus. It's important in regulating many physiological responses such as body temperature, sleeping, and water balance. This shows an image of the anterior and posterior pituitary gland located at the base of the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will produce some hormones. You can see up at the far upper left where the neurosecretory cells in the hypothalamus produce the antidiuretic and oxytocin. Those two hormones, the antidiuretic and the oxytocin, travel to the ends of the cell and stored in the posterior pituitary gland. From there, they would go into the bloodstream. So they're produced by the hypothalamus, but travel to the posterior. Whereas neurosecretory cells in the hypothalamus also secrete releasing and inhibiting hormones, which are sent to the anterior pituitary glands. From here, the releasing inhibitory hormones travel by way of the bloodstream and cause it to modify secretion of 6 different hormones: follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, growth hormone, prolactin, thyroid stimulating hormone, and adrenocorticotropic hormone, which we will be discussing further in the chapter. The anterior pituitary gland, the anterior pituitary lobe is the largest lobe. As previously mentioned, it has a circulatory connection which allows the hypothalamus hormones to control the secretion of the 6 hormones from the anterior lobe. The releasing hormones stimulate hormone secretion by the anterior pituitary, whereas inhibiting hormones inhibit hormone secretion by the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary responds to releasing and inhibiting hormones from the hypothalamus by modifying its own secretion and synthesis of its 6 hormones. Just to recap, the anterior pituitary gland secretes 6 main hormones: growth hormone, prolactin, thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone we'll be looking at further. 2 hormones of the hypothalamus regulate the synthesis and release of growth hormone, abbreviated GH. The growth hormone-releasing hormone, abbreviated GHRH for growth hormone-releasing hormone, stimulates the release of growth hormone, whereas the growth-inhibiting hormone, abbreviated GHIH for growth hormone-inhibiting hormone, inhibits the release of growth hormone. Growth hormone stimulates the rate of cell division and also an increase in cell size. Its target cells include bone, muscle, cartilage. Disorders related to growth hormone include giantism, acromegaly, and pituitary dwarfism. Giantism occurs when abnormally high production of growth hormone in childhood, when the bones are still capable of lengthening. Recall from Chapter 6, the epithelial plate or the growth plate that allows adolescents to grow, but this will eventually fuse into solid bone. Giantism is characterized by rapid growth and height abnormalities of possibly 8 to 9 feet. And this is an image found in your textbook of an individual where abnormally high production of growth hormone occurred during childhood when the bones were still able to lengthen. Acromegaly, on the other hand, occurs when high levels of growth hormone occur during adulthood, when the bones can thicken but not can lengthen any longer. Acromegaly just simply means enlarged extremities. The enlargement of the tongue, thickening of bones in the hands, feet, and face. Both giantism and acromegaly are associated with reduced life expectancies. Excess growth hormone might be caused by a tumor of the anterior pituitary. Treatment might include radiation, surgery, or drugs that inhibit growth hormone secretion. And this is the image of an individual wherein too much growth hormone occurred during adulthood, when the bones were able to thicken but not lengthen any longer. So this is the same individual at age 9, age 16, age 33, and age 52. Pituitary dwarfism, on the other hand, is when insufficient growth hormone production occurs during childhood. In contrast to other forms of dwarfism, it can be treated by administering growth hormone during childhood. And this is an image located in your textbook. Prior to the 1970s, the use of growth hormone to treat medical conditions was only secured and had to be extracted from cadavers or dead bodies. In the 1970s, it began being synthesized in laboratory, promoting even further research as a treatment of aging. Growth hormone can reverse thinning skin, decrease muscle mass, and also it helps to increase body fat. Side effects include fluid accumulation or increased blood pressure. Prolactin interferes with female sex hormones and explains why females don't have regular menstrual cycles while nursing. It should not be a means of controlling birth control, because suppression of these hormones and ovulation lessen as the mother's breastfeeding becomes less frequent. Prolactin in females stimulates the mammary glands to produce milk. There's going to be actually two hormones involved in breast milk. Prolactin is the hormone that will be the hormone producing the milk, and we'll talk about another one later that causes milk ejection. Prolactin in excess in females can cause infertility and lactation to occur when birth has not occurred. In males, it's involved in the production of mature sperm in the testes, and excess can lead to sterility and impotence. Trophic hormones are hormones that influence the secretion of hormones of other glands, and they include the following hormones of the anterior pituitary gland: thyroid stimulating hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, and adenocorticotropic hormone. The thyroid stimulating hormone acts on the thyroid gland to stimulate the synthesis and release of thyroid hormones. Adrenocorticotropic hormone controls the synthesis and secretion of glucocorticoid hormones such as cortisol from the cortex of the adrenal glands. Glucocorticoid hormones turn down the immune system. Follicle stimulating hormone, abbreviated FSH, in females promotes development of egg cells and secretion of estrogen, while in males it promotes the production of sperm. Luteinizing hormone In males, stimulates the production and secretion of testosterone, whereas in females it causes ovulation and the secretion of estrogen and progesterone. Cells within the posterior lobe of the pituitary glands, as previously mentioned, do not produce any hormones. The neurons of the hypothalamus manufacture the antidiuretic and oxytocin, which travel down the nerve cells into the posterior pituitary gland, where they are stored until released. The posterior lobe, it's very small. It's got that neural connection instead of that circulatory connection like the anterior pituitary gland. So basically the posterior lobe is just a storage, but does not produce any hormones, although it does release those produced by the hypothalamus. Antidiuretic hormone produced by the hypothalamus but released by the posterior pituitary gland is also called vasopressin because of its role in constricting blood vessels and raising blood pressure. Antidiuretic hormone, how it acts is it causes the kidneys to remove water from the fluid that's destined to become urine and return that water to the blood. Deficiencies of antidiuretic hormone results in diabetes insipidus. Diabetes insipidus is characterized by excessive urine production and dehydration, so it's loss of too much water. It can be treated by administering antidiuretic hormone in a nasal spray. The main function of antidiuretic hormone is to conserve water by decreasing urine output. Alcohol can temporarily inhibit antidiuretic hormone and causing frequent urination. Caffeine can also inhibit antidiuretic hormone that also results in frequent urination. Increased urination leads to dehydration. This dehydration is actually what results in the headaches and the dry mouth one might experience from hangovers. Oxytocin, again produced by the hypothalamus but stored in the posterior lobe. In females, it stimulates both uterine contractions in childbirth, but it also stimulates milk ejection from the mammary glands. So prolactin was the hormone involved in milk production, but oxytocin is the hormone involved in milk ejection. Oxytocin just means oxy meaning quick, and tokos means childbirth. In males, it may facilitate sexual behavior and also may be involved in the transport of sperm. And so this is an image showing where hypothalamus make the oxytocin, travels down, travels down, it's stored in the posterior pituitary lobe. When released, sucking by the infant is going to stimulate nerve receptors in the nipple. These impulses are going to travel along nerves to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus is going to signal the posterior to release the oxytocin. It's going to travel via the bloodstream to the mammary glands, and milk will be ejected from the mammary glands.